Good evening, everyone. I wanted to give you my thoughts on the first presidential debate hosted by Chris Wallace. So first, I'm just going to give you my thoughts in general about the debate overall, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on each individual section. I took notes on each individual section. There is some things that I want to point out that I thought were important during each one of those sections. So first, my overall impressions of the debate were, first I'm going to talk about Joe Biden, then I'm going to go on to Donald Trump. Joe Biden way exceeded expectation because I didn't even expect Joe Biden to show up. If you would have told me a month ago that Joe Biden was going to debate Donald Trump, I would have said there is no way he will not show up. I know they're supposed to have presidential debates every single election year, and we already saw the Democrats were kind of already setting down the framework so that way Joe Biden didn't have to debate Donald Trump. There was articles in the New York Times about how Biden shouldn't debate Trump. Pelosi was saying that he shouldn't debate Trump. I did not think he was even going to show up to the debate. So already way exceeded expectation because he showed up. And then secondly, I would have thought if he did show up, at some point he would have completely frozen up and been speechless and not been able to even complete his sentence, because we've seen him do this in the past. During the Democratic debates, he was going over, I forget what he was listing, but he was talking about some sort of subject, and he's like, let me tell you a few things, and he goes one thing, and then he goes to the second, he's like, my time is up. The guy couldn't even remember. He just completely froze up. My time is up. I thought if he did show up, he would end up having one of those moments where he just completely froze up and couldn't complete his sentence, and he did not. So to his credit, he way exceeded expectation because A, he showed up, and B, he was able to complete his sentences. And now on to Donald Trump. I think Trump gave some really strong answers. I thought he did pretty well overall, except for the fact that he interrupted way too much. He would have been better served letting Joe Biden speak more. Joe Biden could have dug himself in a hole by just speaking. And if you don't let the guy speak, there goes your opportunity for this guy to freeze up as he's speaking because you're not letting him speak. So that was Donald Trump's biggest mistake in this debate. He should have just sat back and let Joe Biden speak. I think he would have done way better had he done this. Like, for example, when he had asked Joe Biden, he goes, name one law enforcement agency that's endorsed you. And I don't think there has been any. I know there's been individuals. When Joe Biden talks about this, he talks about individuals because I don't think there is any large law enforcement groups that have endorsed him. Donald Trump keeps pressing him on this. He should just ask the question, let that spotlight shine down on him, and let the silence fill the room, and all eyes on Joe Biden. Let him answer that question. But Donald Trump, for whatever reason, he could not stop interrupting. So that was his biggest downfall during this debate because I thought he had some really good moments. I thought he gave some really strong answers. So now let's get into section by section. There's some things that I want to point out here. So the first section right here, they were talking about the Supreme Court, and then it seemed to kind of merge into healthcare. I felt Trump did really well on this. So they were talking about the Supreme Court nomination with Amy Coney Barrett because she's Donald Trump's nominee to fill in the vacant slot for the Supreme Court for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I thought he made good points when he was saying, he goes, look, I am the president for 4 years, not 3.5 years, not 3 years and 10 months. I am the president for 4 years. The same powers that I have on day one are the same powers that I have on the very last day of my presidency. Because Joe Biden is trying to claim that, no, we should wait till this election in order for in order for this nomination to take place, in order for the new Supreme Court justice to be voted on. And Donald Trump had a perfect rebut to that. I'm the president for 4 years, and I thought he did really, really well. And then Joe Biden made just so many false claims. I don't know how he gets away with all these. He was claiming that if the new Supreme Court justice gets elected, that women's rights are going to be stripped away, that she's going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive she's on the record saying that this is already settled case law. So I'm not sure where he gets this from. I don't know why he gets away with this. And of course, the moderator, of course, Chris Wallace, didn't really press him on this. And then also he was talking about pre-existing conditions, that Americans are going to lose their pre-existing conditions if Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed as the next Supreme Court justice. And once again, I don't know how he gets away with this. Donald Trump has went on record so many times saying that he's not going to take away pre-existing conditions. He even signed an executive order recently stating that he will not take away pre-existing conditions. But yet, Joe Biden gets to perpetuate this lie over and over and over again to scare people. And now he's even running ads. Earlier today on YouTube, a YouTube ad popped up, and Joe Biden saying, Donald Trump is going to take away the pre-existing conditions. Like, no, he's not. He's never said that. But Joe Biden just gets to get away with this perpetual lie with no pushback at all. So not sure why that's the case. Moving on to the next section, which was COVID. I thought Trump had a pretty strong performance on this. I mean, Joe Biden was pretty predictable. He says, Donald Trump, you're responsible for the 200,000 deaths, and science is real, and listen to the experts, right? I mean, the kind of just goes through all the Democratic talking points. And Donald Trump had a good, strong response that he cut off travel to China right at the end of January. He was called a xenophobe. He was called a racist by Joe Biden for doing so. And had Joe Biden been in office, there wouldn't have been 200,000. There would have been millions of deaths. And then goes on to talk about the PPE, to talk about ventilators, and mention that there was no shortages, no ventilator shortage, no PPE shortage. He didn't really talk about testing. I guess that's something that I thought he could have mentioned. I mean, we've done way more tests than any other country. He also talked about how many Democratic governors have praised him for his COVID response. Andrew Cuomo, and also the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. They're both on record praising Donald Trump's response. And then whenever Donald Trump was talking about any of these things, or pretty much making any strong point in general, Joe Biden's strategy was just to laugh, to just cackle, ha 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 ha. Like, whatever, it didn't matter what he was saying, is pretty much whenever Donald Trump was speaking. Now, I guess that was the Joe Biden strategy. You just laugh, and it's going to look like you're winning. I guess it's all about perception, and that's what Joe Biden's handlers told him. Just laugh, no matter what, and then people will think you're winning. And then the next section that I want to point out right here is the race relations and the riots. I thought Donald Trump could have done better here. There was specific things that he should have pointed out when it comes to things that he did to help the black community. I mean, his record speaks for itself. He has a tremendous record. The only thing he had to do was just go over that record. And I think that it would have been better for him. He could have talked about the First Step Act, which released 7,000 nonviolent inmates from prison, 91% of which were black. He could have talked about the enhanced HBCU funding, the historical black colleges and university funding, which he's extended for 10 years. He could have talked about how he created economic opportunity zones to give investors tax incentives to invest in low-income neighborhoods. He didn't mention any of these things, and these were all really, really strong points. These are all things that have been tremendously helpful for the black community that I wish he would have mentioned. And then moving on right here is one thing that I was happy that Chris Wallace had asked Joe Biden about was some of the violence in Portland. Chris Wallace tells Joe Biden there's been nearly 100 straight days, or actually more than 100 consecutive days of violent riots in Portland. And he asked Joe Biden, have you contacted the mayor? Have you contacted any of the officials in that area to tell them how to get everything under control? And of course, Joe Biden completely dodge this one. He goes, well, I'm not the president, as if like you need to be the president to make a phone call and just to call other people of your party to encourage them to do their job. And then, of course, they ask Donald Trump, the white supremacy question, for the millionth time, he is on record denouncing white supremacy a bunch of times. Then they asked him again, do you denounce white supremacy? And he says, sure. So they kept harping on that one. And then Joe Biden, he segued into military, and he was talking about his son, and he looks at Donald Trump and he goes, my son, I guess who was a veteran, was not a sucker and a loser, referencing that Atlantic story, which had anonymous sources, in which was countered by 26 people that were not anonymous, that went on record and said that Donald Trump never called deceased veterans suckers and losers. But once again, Joe Biden gets to get away with all of these lies. He's allowed to perpetuate this Atlantic story, which was substantiated by strictly anonymous sources and absolutely no pushback at all from the moderator. This is where I was really, really upset. It's like, this is when Chris Wallace steps in and says, Joe Biden, these were anonymous sources. 26 people were on record refuting this. But, of course, no pushback for Joe Biden at all. And then one other thing, too, that I wanted to point out in terms of race relations is when Chris Wallace asked Donald Trump about critical race theory. You know, you ban critical race theory, and then goes on to say that you banned racial sensitivity training. And Donald Trump goes on to say, okay, well, it's racist and it teaches people to hate America. Both those things are true, but he could have had a stronger answer to that. He should have gone through some of the specifics, because first off, he didn't ban racial sensitivity training. He banned specifically critical race theory. Critical race theory teaches people that hard work is an element of white supremacy, that having a schedule is an element of white supremacy. It is also inspired by Ibram Kendi, the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist, which tells people the only way to fight past discrimination is with present discrimination. This is why I banned critical race theory. So I wish he would have been more specific. I wish he would have been more prepared for that question, went through the specifics about how evil, how ridiculous, how destructive critical race theory is, because he was 100% justified and right in banning it, and I wish he had a better explanation as to why he banned it, because the facts are on his side. He just needed to recite them better. And then on climate change, I thought Donald Trump did a good job at addressing the forest fires in California and Oregon, which has been a hot topic of discussion lately, mentioning that you need to have appropriate forest management measures. And also another thing that I want to point out, going back to Joe Biden, is Joe Biden talks about the Green New Deal and then contradicts himself almost immediately afterward. And to give you the specific quote right here, Joe Biden says, he goes, the Green New Deal will pay for itself. Chris Wallace butts in, he goes, do you support the Green New Deal? Joe Biden goes, no. You just said it'll pay for itself. Sounds like something that you supported, and then you just decided, I don't support it. So once again, Joe Biden completely contradicting himself, because Joe Biden has to play a very delicate balance between trying to appeal to the far left, but also trying to appeal to the moderates as well. And it's a very, very tough juggling act. And then moving on to the last section right here that I want to discuss is election security. So I felt that Donald Trump did a pretty good job on this one. First, he talked about the Democrats not accepting the results of the 2016 election, which they haven't. He was under investigation before he ever even took office. And then he goes on to point out all of the pitfalls of mail-in voting. He rattles off this long list of all the examples of how mail-in voting has been linked to so much fraud, mentions Paterson, New Jersey. I don't think he went into the specifics. I wish he would have been more specific, especially about Paterson, New Jersey, where you had 20% of the ballots were ruled fraudulent. There was 4 indictments, and they still don't even know who the winner is, and they have to redo the entire election. But nonetheless, Donald Trump did rattle off a pretty good list of examples of examples for mail-in voting fraud. And then Joe Biden's response is, there's no evidence of that, which is completely ridiculous. Yes, there is evidence. The evidence is all of the things that were just listed off, Joe. So, I mean, that was kind of Joe Biden's strategy. No matter what Donald Trump said, just say it's not true. And as Donald Trump is speaking and as he's dropping inconvenient facts, just laugh and cackle. And that way the people will perceive that you're winning, because I guess if you're laughing, the other person must be wrong. So I guess this was pretty much Joe Biden's strategy in a nutshell. But anyway, these were my thoughts about the debate overall. So hope you like it. Give me your thoughts. What did you think of the first presidential debate? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Like my video, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.